Yeah. Here's the thing, I don't think there's one definitive Bible for case interviews. Victor Cheng, The Secrets of Case Interview, case in point from Cosentino, has been there for 10 years or more. And another one is called Mastering the Case. I don't remember the authors. Those would be the books that most people would use. Now, are they perfect? They're not going to be perfect, but they're going to give you a good sense. Skim through them, and then take them with a bit of grain of salt when you find some things that, well, maybe this structuring is not so messy, or maybe this thing is not helping me so much. But as a starting point, I think it helps to go a bit broad rather than narrowing down. Then there's a lot of things out there, to be honest, they're very poor quality. So those are a bit more trusted sources.
This might be a stereotype, but a lot of my friends tell me those companies hire the top 10% of your class. Now that you say that personality and personal fit and all that stuff is so important, if you're not in that top 10%, how do you actually get the chance to go to an interview or to the first
So you can view the screening process as almost like a simplified interview. So what they're looking for in the screening process is people that can go successfully through the interviews. So they're going to be looking at the same things. They're going to be looking at problem solving and then behavioral skills. And if you are top of class, well, McKinsey loves it because problem solving skill is one very important dimension. If you are able to compensate with behavioral skills, if you can give enough evidence that you have these skills, they're going to be comfortable in putting you through the interviews because you can make it through the interviews even if you don't have the highest score in problem solving. You need to be distinctive in one or the other, but not necessarily on both. Now, another thing that is important is that your grades at school are not everything. This is just part of the application. The screening process takes into account that, which school you attended, your grades and all that, but you're also going to do the problem solving test. And that's one more data point for your analytical skills. And one more thing, when you go to an interview, those things don't even matter. It only matters for the screening. When you are in the interview, it's all about your performance there. At the end of the day, the people that are screening CVs from the HR, the recruiters, they are looking for safe bets. And the safe bets for them are those who tick the boxes. And those boxes, you don't need to tick everything. So if you don't take all the analytics, there's a lot of things you can take on behavioral. And then when you complement that with a problem-solving test, which, by the way, I as an interviewer would not know when I face the candidate, so it would not bias my judgment, because if they tell me, then I would be biased when I'm interviewing. I would expect certain things of him. Everything in the screening ends in the screening. Screening is about the recruiters, interviewing is about the consultants. And if you want to pass through the screening, it's either with problem-solving or behavioral. Very rarely you can have both. It's a trade-off most of the time. Yeah.
What's the main difference between the three companies that you have mentioned and the Big Four, for instance? Ernst & Young and so forth?
There are a couple of dimensions. So one is in terms of the clients they serve. So typically the firms like McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, they serve the biggest corporations, the biggest clients. Most of the Fortune 500 companies, with a few exceptions, are served by one of the three. Another one is the type of projects you do. They typically have the projects that are more the top mind of CEO. So really the overarching things of setting the strategy or doing a major turnaround in the corporation. Whereas the other consulting firms work at lower levels of the organization. So for example, in a department of the company, restructuring that department, or introducing a new business operation software, whatever. So typically the kind of projects are a bit more top level at McKinsey and a bit more down in the organization with the other consulting firms. And then a third point is the consultants themselves. The top consulting firms, they have an incredible reputation. I saw it in my MBA, how people would suddenly go crazy. Actually, the biggest competitor for McKinsey in terms of getting talent is not even the other consulting firms, is Goldman Sachs. So when they come to campus, they really try to hire the poshest restaurants and the poshest resorts because they are competing with Goldman Sachs on trying to lure people in. All my colleagues that had offers for McKinsey and another consulting, BCG or Bain, they would go for McKinsey. And sometimes with a bit of a lower compensation. It's always like, if you can make it, you make it to the top three. Otherwise, plan B is go to another consulting. So it's a bit like a school, right? Reputation. It's the reputation itself draw the best students, and then the consulting firms can choose which to take or not. So I think clients, projects, and the consultants themselves is really what differentiates a bit. Another important aspect is also the opportunities that you as a consultant get. So going through these big consulting firms is really a huge stamp on your CV, and it opens a lot of doors. If you look at the alumni list at McKinsey, BCG, and Bain, so where these people are now, you'll be surprised. They're in very good positions. And a lot of times, because you were so close with top management, senior executives, you really get a chance to jump to that company a lot of levels up what you would normally get. So I think for the consultant is also the opportunities you have when you get out of consulting are also a bit different. So in that sense, I think it's very similar to the university that you take. The prestige, the reputation, then opens doors for you. Yeah.
You mentioned that you typically go through, after a few years at, for instance, McKinsey, then you go to do an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
But is that also relevant here in Denmark? Because I understand sort of the system is different, for instance, in the US, where you do an undergraduate and then you become a consultant for a few years and then you do an MBA. But here in Denmark, people typically have a candidate or a master's degree in something.
Mm-hmm.
And then do they also go and do it?
It's not mandatory that you do the MBA. But in most countries, it's a no-brainer. Because the firm sponsors you in doing the MBA. Yeah. And take Portugal. I joined the Lisbon office. And I joined after a master's degree in civil engineering. At 2 years or 3 years after, in my case 2 years after, they tell you, well, you can now take a break. And we pay you to take that break. Well, are you going to think about, oh, should I take? I mean, it's amazing. You're going to meet so many people. They're going to increase so much your network that you go. And everyone has gone. Everyone at the Lisbon office, with a very few exceptions, has gone. So it's pretty much, it's not mandatory. It's very much of an office culture. And it's true that here in Denmark, the MBAs are not so widely regarded. But actually, it has been historically a huge source of talent for McKinsey, the MBAs. The most influential person at McKinsey, Marvin Bauer, the visionary that really established managing consulting as a profession. He was himself a Harvard MBA, and he was the one starting this huge recruiting machine at these MBAs. So if you look at Harvard Business School, INSEAD, Stanford, McKinsey is the top employer, the top recruiter at those schools. So the MBA, is it necessary to progress? Well, no. You can decide not to do it. But is it common? Yes. I think it's a huge value proposition to be able to do it.
But then would you do it as like a full-time study for 1 or 2 years?
Yeah.
This is that, I mean, I've interacted with McKinsey and I've never heard this before in the Copenhagen office. This is new to me,
it's not so common. I think that for some reason the MBAs are really not that common overall. For a lot of other countries it is, and it actually helps. If you go through an MBA from Harvard, it also helps you establish credibility in the eyes of your client. Because the clients themselves are full of MBAs at senior positions. And for McKinsey, it's, of course, there's a few top MBAs that you are almost allowed to go. That helps. It's you have a good time, and for McKinsey, it's also good to have this stamp of the MBA. So it's not very common in Copenhagen. It's an exception here. It's common all around the world. Some people, by the way, leave to do other things. They do PhDs and then they come back. You are allowed to have this educational leave.
I mean, I'm just about to finish my PhD and I would like to become a consultant. And I'm not sure I'm so thrilled about going back to school again.
Yeah, of course, but you don't need to do it. Some people don't do that. People that join earlier on, like me straight from a master, it's a no-brainer, you go. But indeed, with you that have an advanced degree, it's not so necessary. So what McKinsey does is they give you a mini MBA. It's a few weeks, and then you're going to learn everything that you would learn on an MBA, and then you're going to have on top of that some e-learnings that are going to help you with finance, accounting, economics, and all that. You go to an MBA not because of the learning. So if you don't do an MBA, McKinsey is going to give you the tools you need. You do an MBA because it's part of the deal when you are a consultant. But it's very much the culture. Around the world, there's an MBA culture. In Copenhagen and a few other, in the Nordic countries as a rule, that culture is not there. So most of the times you end up not doing it. Save 1 year in your career track.
Said you want to apply for consultant. Would we then here in Denmark apply to Denmark, or could we do other places?
So when you apply, you normally apply for an office. Now you may choose, this is my primary office, and you may put a secondary and tertiary. Because at the end of the day, there's a bit of supply and demand. also at stake. And some office may not be recruiting so many people, so you may want to go to an office that is actually have more open positions. Because otherwise you may apply and they tell you, yes, you can only interview in 1 year from now. Whereas if you put as a second option London and whatever, Dubai, for example, there's a huge boom there, well, that you can get interviewed next week if you want. So the recruiting is local. It's people from that office that recruit you. But you can also specify other office if you are not keen on one specific.
Now that you talk about how about transferring from office to office?
That's possible. And the good thing about McKinsey, for example, is that it's a one-firm concept. So regardless of the office, the way it works is exactly the same. So I would go to an office in Kuala Lumpur in the Petronas Towers, and it feels at home. The telephones are the same, the computers are the same. You go there, you know where the kitchen is, where the toilets are. It's really amazing. It's like designed by the same people. And that also applies to transferring office. It's very easy to, so let me explain a bit better. It's not very easy to transfer. You can do that. Of course, the supply and demand plays in recruiting and plays in these shifts. So it depends on what is the transfer that you are seeing. If it's a definitive move, the process takes a bit more time. It can take up to 1 year. Because if it's a definitive move, you need to get it to know people from the destination office, and you need to have a supporter there. So you need to have someone from your home office that signs, okay, I'm this person, I approve that he changes office. Normally that's not a big problem, but you need to have someone on the receiving end that say, yes, we are going to receive him, we're going to fit him in this CST, in this team. But if you are looking for something more soft, for example, I want to do 1 year in an office, a rotational period, that's pretty easy to do. They'd help you finding a house. If you don't find a house, in most offices they give you 1 month of free housing, so you have time to prepare that. So they help you with the relocation. They take care of all the logistics, the bureaucratic thing, in case you need them. And then, of course, if you just want to do a project in another country spend a few months in another country, that's super easy. There's no problem. So if you are interested in going to Australia, for example, have some good weather, you can see what kind of projects are there, and then you get in touch with people who are in those projects, and if they want, they tell you, come in, join our team. So it's really much, if you are proactive, you can very easily get a project. And actually, getting a project in another office is the best way to transition there permanently. Because you do a project with the team likes you, and then they become your supporters.
So how did you leave McKinsey? Did you get offered something? Or?
So yes, so let me tell you the story. I studied in Lisbon, then I did my MBA, and then I wanted to change to a booming economy at the time, so I went to Brazil. First in São Paulo office, then I moved to the Rio de Janeiro office. I spoke a bit about these pros and cons of consulting. And I think that over time, the pros are, in my view, are very big in the beginning. But then the balance starts shifting a bit. And for me, the one that was weighing the most was really lifestyle. I always had this idea in my mind. When I make it to engagement manager, my life is going to be so much easier. Because at the moment, I'm just working like crazy. I don't have full control of my project. But when I'm going to get there, there's not going to be any crunch with my team, because I'm not going to let that happen. Or if the partners come and they ask me, yeah, we need to do this, this, and this, I'm going to tell them, no, that's out of the scope of the project. We're going to focus on this. So I thought that as an engagement manager, I would be completely in control of what was happening. It was not the case. As an engagement manager, I even had more and more pressure. So basically, no weekends, no nights off, because I would be doing everything during the day, meeting the client, managing the team, and then at night I would start thinking, okay, so what is the takeaways from the day? Speaking with partners in the calls and speaking with specialists and all that. And then the weekend was my time to really think a bit more in the overall project and plan the week ahead. So to me, the lifestyle was really starting to weigh down. I left McKinsey because during my MBA, I realized that there was something I loved to do, and that there was a huge demand for it. And that was precisely preparing people to be consultants. So I started in my MBA, helping my friends with mock interviews. And then I became known as the McKinsey guy. So they would all come to me and ask, Filipe, you need to help me. We'd be fully booked to help them. It was very clear in my mind, I love doing this. So one day I'm going to do something about it. But at the time, I felt that I was still learning a lot in McKinsey, and I still had this dream of, I need to be an engagement manager. I need to see how it is. And when I got back to McKinsey, I started becoming very involved in the interviewing and being trained as an experienced interviewer. And at the same time, I started helping people also applying for MBAs at McKinsey. So then I became known as the go-to person when they needed really to do their applications. So then I said, wow, there's another thing that is really cool. Now I have so much demand. And some of the people were even outside consulting, because one speaks to another, and then They would come to me. So, wow, those are two things that I really love doing. And I could have a much more sustainable lifestyle. So I left McKinsey 6 months ago to completely dedicate myself to that. And a few other ideas, but those are the things that I really think can make a huge difference for people, helping them moving in their careers and eliminate all the fear that I saw in candidates and all this. I was mentioning banana leaves. It's true. It's a waste for McKinsey to have people that are not prepared. It's a waste for the candidate to not have a chance to go there. So it's something that I love doing, and something that's, I think it was the time for me to be an entrepreneur. So I had offers, and I had a lot of offers. So I have offers from clients that I worked with. We did a transformational, completely turnaround in a company, and they asked me to lead something called the PMO, the Project Management Office of the CEO, in implementing what we recommended. So a huge department with 30, 40 people. It was very appealing to me at the time. I thought, well, should I go or not? In hindsight, I was very, very lucky that I didn't go, because the thing didn't go so well. But anyway, and I received, so this transformational thing didn't go well. But it was not the consultant's fault. Okay. It's other politics, so some murky things happening. I had other offers of oil and gas companies, offers in Dubai and all that. I don't even know how they knew about me. I was not in the market. I left McKinsey with that purpose. So when I say that it offers huge opportunities, it's true. Even people that I would not expect from private equity would, well, we have a spot, we are investing in these companies, are you interested in having a talk with us? I had a few talks, to be honest, just to get a sense, but I was pretty sure that this is what I want to do. I want to have full control. It's my story. So we wrap it up. I hope it was useful for you. If you give me a bad score, I'm going to be fired from my own firm.